Jack's mother said, "We're stony broke. Go out and find some wealthy bloke who'll buy our cow. Just say she's sound and worth at least £100. Jack led the old brown cow away and came back later in the day. I really don't know how, a super trade-in for our cow." When Jack produced one lousy bean, his startled mother, turning green, leapt high up in the air and cried, "I'm absolutely stupefied! You crazy boy, do you really mean? You sold our Daisy for a bean?" She snatched the bean, she yelled, "You chump!" and flung it on the rubbish dump. At 10 p.m. or thereabout, the little bean began to sprout. By morning it had grown so tall, you couldn't see the top at all.
"Well, hello. Do you have a favourite saying?" asked the boy. "Yes," said the mole. "What is it?" "If at first you don't succeed, have some cake." "I see. Does it work?" "Oh, every time. Just a tiny taste." "I got you a delicious cake," said the mole. "Did you?" "Yes." "Where is it?" "I ate it," said the mole. "Oh, well, I got you another one." "Did you? Where is that one?" "The same thing seems to have happened."
Flopsy, Mopsy and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. First, he ate some lettuces and some French beans, and then he ate some radishes. And then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley. But round the end of a cucumber frame, who should he meet but Mr. McGregor? Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting out young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rake and calling, "Stop, thief!" Peter was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten his way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages and the other shoe among the potatoes.
The watchers below could see the chocolate swishing around the boy in the pipe, and they could see it building up behind him in a solid mass, pushing against the blockage. The pressure was terrific. Something had to give. Something did give, and that something was Augustus. Woof! Up he shot again like a bullet in the barrel of a gun. "He's disappeared!" yelled Mrs. Gloop. "Where does that pipe go to? Quick, call the fire brigade." "Keep calm," cried Mr. Wonka. "Keep calm, my dear lady, keep calm. There is no danger whatsoever. Augustus has gone on a little journey, that's all. A most interesting little journey, but he'll come out of it just fine. You wait and see." "How can he possibly come out just fine?" snapped Mrs. Gloop. "He'll be made into
"Children are revolting," screamed the Grand High Witch. "We will wipe them all away. We will scrub them off the face of the earth. We will flush them down the drain." "Yes, yes," chanted the audience. "Wipe them away, scrub them off the earth, flush them down the drain." "Children are foul and filthy," thundered the Grand High Witch. They are," chorused the English witches. "They are foul and filthy."
"How's school?" Granny asked. "Boring," muttered Ben. "Adults always ask kids how they're doing at school. The one subject kids absolutely hate talking about. You don't even want to talk about school when you're at school." "Oh," said Granny. "Well, I must check on the oven. I've got your favourite cabbage pie on the go." She rose slowly from her seat and made her way to the kitchen. And as she took each step, a little bubble of wind puffed out of her saggy bottom. Sounded like a duck quacking. Ben watched her go and crept silently across the room, which was difficult because of the piles of books everywhere. Ben's granny loved books and always seemed to have a nose in one. Crime novels were her favourite, books about gangsters and bank robbers and mafia. Although Ben hated reading, he loved looking at all the covers of Granny's books. They had fast cars and guns and glamorous ladies painted on them. And Ben found it hard to believe that his boring Granny loved these stories that looked so thrilling.
December, Sunday. The worst part of having someone tell you about their holiday is trying to pretend you're happy for them, because no one wants to hear about all the fun they didn't have. The only holidays I want to hear about are the ones where things went wrong. That way, I don't feel bad for missing out.
We see them come, we see them go. Some are fast and some are slow. Some are high and some are low. Not one of them is like another. Don't ask us why, go ask your mother. Say, look at his fingers. 1, 2, 3. How many fingers do I see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He has 11. 11, this is something new. I wish I had 11 too. Bump, bump, bump. Did you ever ride a wump? We have a wump with just one hump. But we know a man called Mr. Gump. Mr. Gump has a 7-hump wump. So if you like to go bump, bump, just jump on the hump of the wump of Gump.
What a lot of hairy-faced men there are around nowadays. When a man grows hair all over his face, it is impossible to tell what he really looks like. Perhaps that's why he does it. He'd rather you didn't know. Then there's the problem of washing. When the very hairy ones wash their faces, it must be as big a job as when you or I wash our hair on our heads. So what I want to know is this. How often do all these hairy-faced men wash their faces? Is it only once a week, like us, on Sunday nights? And do they shampoo it? Do they use a hairdryer? Do they rub hair tonic in to stop the faces from going bald? I don't know. But next time you see a man with a hairy face, which will probably be as soon as you step out onto the street, maybe you will look at him more closely and start wondering about some of these things.
Pay attention, kids, this is going to be cool. Dad's face glowed under the red darkroom light. My sister Nicole and I watched him develop in film. With a pair of tongs, he dipped a sheet of special paper in a chemical bath. I've watched Dad develop film all my life. He's a professional photographer, but I'd never seen him so excited about photos before, and that's saying a lot. Dad takes nature photos. He never stops taking pictures. My mum says that once when I was a baby, I saw Dad and screamed. I didn't recognise him without a camera in front of his face. I used to think he had a zoom lens for a nose. Anyway, Dad had just returned from a trip to the Grand Tetons. That's a mountain range in Wyoming, part of the Rocky Mountains. He was all worked up about the pictures he had taken there. I wish you kids had seen those bears, Dad said. A whole family of them. The cubs reminded me of you two, always teasing each other. Teasing? Ha! Dad thinks Nicole and I tease each other.
The next Copa America was delayed due to COVID-19, but it finally took place in Brazil in June 2021. By then, Scaloni had strengthened his squad even further, especially in defense. Now, Argentina had a new goalkeeper, Emi Martinez, a new center back, Cristian Romero, two new right backs, Noel Molina and Gonzalo Montiel.
Where's the saucer, she said. I won't have a cup without a saucer. George fetched her a saucer. And what about a teaspoon, if you please?
Go. There's only one time during the day when your super teachers aren't sitting in class facing you, and that's the time super teachers assemble their deadly weapons, and that's why they call this time assembly. Of course, says Naz. You think they are all at the back of the school hall listening to your head teacher drone on and on, when really they are busy assembling their deadly weapons. Not only that, but 3 or 4 times a year they close the school for so-called teacher training days, so they can learn how to use them. That's really sneaky. So how can we stop these super teachers from taking over? Luckily, I have devised some simple devices for neutralising your super teacher's deadly weapons. What are these devices exactly? They're the answers to the next quiz.
Deep down here by the dark water lived old Gollum, a small slimy creature. I don't know where he came from, nor who or what he was. He was Gollum, as dark as darkness, except for 2 big round pale eyes in his thin face. He had a little boat and he rowed about it quite quietly on the lake, for a lake it was, wide and deep and deadly cold. He paddled it with large feet dangling over the side, but never a ripple did he make, not he. He was looking out of his pale lamp-like eyes for blind fish, which he grabbed with his long fingers as quick as thinking. Actually, Gollum lived on a slimy island of rock in the middle of the lake. He was watching Bilbo now from the distance with his pale eyes like telescopes. Bilbo could not see him, but he was wondering a lot about Bilbo, for he could see that he was no goblin at all.
As the dots drew closer, the boy recognised 2 Harrier jump jets. These were modern jet-powered fighter planes, and they whooshed past the Spitfire at incredible speed. Jack was scared. What had these fighter planes been sent up to do? Shoot them down? The pair of Harriers flew so close it felt like a warning of some sort. Behind him, he could see the 2 planes turning back around. In seconds, they caught up with them and flew alongside the Spitfire. 1 plane on either side, so close that the Harrier's wings were very nearly touching theirs. The jump jet pilots wore black visors on their helmets, so you couldn't see their eyes, and their mouths were covered by masks. They looked more like robots than people. Jerry's got a brand spanking new plane, said Grandpa. Jack looked to his left, then right.
Not for the first time, an argument had broken out over breakfast at number 4 Privet Drive. Mr. Vernon Dursley had been woken in the early hours of the morning by a loud hooting noise from his nephew Harry's room. "Third time this week," he roared across the table. "If you can't control that owl, it'll have to go." Harry tried yet again to explain. "She's bored," he said. "She's used to flying around outside. If I could just let her out at night." "Do I look stupid?" snarled Uncle Vernon, a bit of fried egg dangling from his bushy moustache. "I know what'll happen if that owl's let out." He exchanged dark looks with his wife Petunia. Harry tried to argue back, but his words were drowned by a long, loud belch from Dursley's son Dudley. "I want more bacon." "There's more in the frying pan, sweetums," said Aunt Petunia.
The barn was very large. It was very old. It smelled of hay. It smelled of manure. It smelled of the perspiration of tired horses and the wonderful sweet breath of patient cows. It often had a sort of peaceful smell, as though nothing bad could happen ever again in the world. It smelled of grain and of harness dressing and of axle grease and of rubber boots and of new rope. And whatever the cat was given a fish head to eat, the barn would smell of fish. But mostly it smelled of hay, for there was always hay in the great loft up overhead. And there was always hay being pitched down to the cows and the horses and the sheep.
On Monday, he ate through one apple, but was still hungry. On Tuesday, he ate through 2 pears, but was still hungry. On Wednesday, he ate through 3 plums, but he was still hungry. On Thursday, he ate through 4 strawberries, but was still hungry. On Friday, he ate through 5 oranges, but was still hungry. On Saturday, he ate through 1 piece of chocolate cake, 1 ice cream cone, 1 pickle, 1 slice of Swiss cheese, 1 slice of salami, 1 lollipop, 1 cherry pie, 1 sausage, 1 cupcake, 1 slice of watermelon, and that night he had stomachache. The next day was Sunday again.